Some years ago, by which I mean 2 or so decades, roughly, my dad was at a several-day course to earn some additional qualifications for his job. On the final day, there was going to be a multiple-choice test to actually pass the seminar. On test day, everyone got settled into place, and the teacher announced that he would not go easy on cheaters. You had one strike to be caught trying to copy off of someone else or use a cheat sheet, but if you were caught a second time, you would be immediately thrown out and your score made invalid. Now, this teacher was very old-school strict and treating grown working people like unruly school children, and my dad does not like that very much. So my dad proceeds to take the test, and it goes pretty well. When he's through with the questions, there is just one left where he's not sure he's got it right. And he has a free strike after all. So my dad yells out into the class. Just calls out, "What's the answer to question 14? Some complete bro elsewhere in the room yells the answer back. My dad fills in the sheet, gets up, walks to the teacher's desk, presumably tries to not trip on the teacher's jaw as it lies on the floor, hands in his test, and leaves the room. To the teacher's credit, he approached my dad afterwards with some begrudging respect. I don't know if he changed his policy afterwards or the tone in which he conveyed it. So I go to a smallish high school, like 600 kids. I did nerdy shit, band, theater, speech, and I swam too. Was well known and relatively liked. Anyways, in my senior year, I would rock up to school late to first hour English 102, Pepsi in hand. Teacher starts to notice, gives me detentions for it, I still do it. This continues for a few weeks, until the gas station I bought my Pepsis from was having a sale. Apparently, the now ex-manager had ordered way too much Pepsi. Like, whole pallets worth. It was taking up so much space in his tiny store that the owner put it on sale for $3 for a 24-pack. I would have been a fool not to buy them. I rock up to school carrying 3 24-packs. Whilst avoiding looks from our school cop and hall monitor, I unloaded those babies in my locker. Pepsi time. I grabbed handfuls of these beautiful blue boys and put them in my backpack. Again, I rock up to class, late. Same LA. My friend mentions being thirsty. Pepsi time. I grab one out of my backpack and roll it over to him. As he looks at me with confusion, I say, "Drink, my child." People hear me say this. People see the Pepsi. People see how much I have. I give people the Pepsi. I am christened as the god of Pepsi. This happens several times over the next 2 weeks, me restocking the Pepsi supply at the end of each week. Eventually the teacher starts to amp up the detentions to 2 and 3 every time I'm late. Or so she said. I believe it was cause of the opening cans. One day, she just tells me to go to the assistant principal's office. The children are left without their Pepsi. They are sad. The assistant principal basically tells me that the cans are distracting to class and that I can't bring them in anymore. Sad emote. How will the children get their Pepsi? Such a fool, they'll get their Pepsi anyways. My place of work sells Pepsi for like $1 including employee discount. When I learn of this, I immediately buy about 6 of them. The next day, I leave all of my books at home. No need for them. It's Pepsi time. I rock up to school, late again, Pepsi in backpack and solo cups in my hands. The teacher smiles her biggest smile and says good morning. She obviously knows about the Pepsi. Fool. I keep eye contact and bring out the 2 liters. Her expression turns. I open one, and the crisp sound of fresh Pepsi floods my ears. The other kids cheer. The teacher tries to send me back to the assistant principal's office, but I simply say it's not a can. She still calls him down, and I get 3 days suspension in school for disobeying the rules, or whatever. I don't care. My children have been given the water of life. Aftermath. I find out from some friends at lunch that they've posted pictures of my face over Pepsi Man's body. I am now Pepsi Man in the eyes of the school. still hand out Pepsi to everyone who asks for it. I am Pepsi man. So a few years ago in middle school I was taking a Russian class, foreign language, and our teacher decided we would play a game and the winning team would get an A, so the stakes were very high. She was pretty chill, so we would play games pretty often, but she usually had holes in her games that could break the game pretty easily. Relevant later. That day we were playing a game where we were divided into 4 teams of 2, and one the teams would describe an object in Russian. Teacher told us what we had to describe, and the first team to guess what was being described got a point. The team that was describing the object got no points, even if they described it successfully. So I tried pointing it out. You might want to change the rules a bit, it's pretty easy to break the game. Teacher, I don't want to hear about it. The game is perfect how it is, so just sit down and play. So, I obliged. I usually didn't exploit these plot holes, but I felt like I had to this time. I went to my teammate, explained what I wanted to do, and he agreed. For the next 45 minutes, we turned absolutely illiterate, not being able to describe the single word we were given, but still guessing the words other teams described. We won the game with a letter a single point and got our A's. After that, whenever someone brought up any holes in her rules, she usually listened to them. My mom was charged $1,000 for a loan despite having paid it off due to hidden fees which they lied about. This was before internet, mind you. It was also when it was legal to pay in pennies. You know where this is going. My mom collected coins and still does to this day. She had a barrel full of pennies. According to Google, that was around $3,000 worth. With the help of my dad and a dolly, she went to the loan office to pay the fee. There was no coin counting machines, so they had to count by hand. They couldn't leave until they counted 100,000 pennies per company policy. My mom made small talk with the woman counting the money on occasion, making her miscount. Several hours after the office closed and having to recount over and over again, the lady gave up and waived her fee. I wouldn't be surprised if my mom was the reason you can't pay in only pennies now.